Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And I think something very unusual has happened today. It seems, and this, I've got to be honest, given how bad it's been recently, Hamza Yousaf has done something, prepare yourself for it, sensible. He was giving his speech today, and I've mentioned this earlier, how he was supposed to be given this vision of the future, announcing his new policies and things like that. And then, of course, the Colin Beattie whole situation there blows up in front of his face, sort of offlining this. But he did, nonetheless, press on with his announcement of what he's going to be doing. And he's slowly, released information. But one of the little things he's released is that he is quietly dropping and cancelling the deposit return scheme. Of course, he didn't go to so far as to actually say that. No. He delays the deposit release scheme. Now, there is a truism in politics that if you truly ever want to get rid of something without losing face, you never announce that it's being cancelled or that you were wrong or anything like that. No. That is never what happens. What happens is that something that you have made a big pronouncement upon that suddenly isn't going to happen. You don't say that. You say that there are circumstances, it needs to be looked at. Older and wiser heads want to investigate some of the particular fine detail into slightly better degree. Or that given the economic situation, now is not quite the right time to bring in such a radical, although it's a welcome change, it's quite radical, and so it needs to be brought in with the people in a better position. Weasel words, not the real words. When a politician announces any policy is being, quote, delayed, that is politico speak for being cancelled, but they're never ever going to admit it. And so his announcement today, he says he's delaying the deposit return scheme. So that will be the last time we ever hear of it. It will never raise its head again. And so we'll have a look at this article to see what else he's announced. Some of it's quite mad, of course, but the deposit return scheme, well, that's quite welcome because we all know how awful it is. Here goes. So, Yousaf reverses key Sturgeon policies as he sets out a fresh vision for Scotland. So he is distancing himself. All those great ideas, continuity Hamza. He is the man that's going to push through with the same old thing that was so good and so winning for the party until it turns out that it's all toxic and that the previous regime is going to bring the party down. And so he's reversing as much of it as he can utterly get away with in any single go. I mean, when you see what he's doing, well, you can't blame him for doing it, to be fair, but it just goes to show that you couldn't believe a word of this continuity SNP that he was spouting through the election. Anyway, opposition leaders say the relaunch attempt has been utterly torpedoed by the SNP Treasurer arrest, which I covered earlier, and yes, it has. Nobody really is paying attention to him. This sort of thing goes under the radar when people are looking at the Colin Beattie issue. But I think this should still come out, because when you do get big news like Colin Beattie, a lot of this stuff, this little stuff, goes under the radar, and it wouldn't have been noticed that they've quietly dropped the deposit scheme. So Scotland's new First Minister, we have to stop calling him the new First Minister. He's been there for 3 weeks now, and in 3 weeks he's undergone as much sort of trial by fire as some people get in 3 years. But anyway, Scotland's new First Minister, Hamza Yousaf, has set out a fresh vision for his next 3 years in government. He's very optimistic. I will give him that. 3 years in government. He isn't going to get 3 months in government. And anyway, there's only 2.5 years until the next election, so I don't know why he's looking at 3 years anyway. He says that delays, redraws or reverses a number of predecessor Nicola Sturgeon's key policies. Well, everything that Sturgeon did was wrong. To be fair, if he's doing the complete opposite of everything that's gone before, do you know, there's a chance, and we've got to be honest here, there's a chance he might just get something right, and it'll be the first time and we'll be able to celebrate. Even us, we will feel good for him, because it's nice to see a man who loses at everything just get that one little victory, just to give him a little bit of pleasure in life. Anyway, opposition leaders said any attempt at a relaunch had been utterly torpedoed by the arrest earlier today of the SNP Treasurer Colin Beattie, not before time, amid the ongoing police investigation into the party's terrible funding and finances. which is just getting worse and worse with every report that we read. Making his first major policy statement since he was elected First Minister last month. Well, he hasn't had an opportunity to yet. He's been too busy firefighting. Yousaf told the MSPs on Tuesday afternoon that he would delay the controversial deposit return scheme. That is, like I say, to ban it, to collapse it. It's gone. It is washed away. It will never happen. He wants to take plans to restrict alcohol advertising back to the drawing board. In other words, they're not going to restrict advertising of alcohol because of how important alcohol is to the Scottish economy. And to rejoin 2 international school league tables in order to increase available comparable data on Scotland's educational performance. They were pulled out initially by Nicola Sturgeon because when the Scottish results were shown in comparison with everyone else, it was shown that over the sort of by now 16 years of SNP rule, it was very, very much a downward pointing line, and they didn't want those comparisons made because it was not good. It did not reflect the truth. So I think he's actually shown the first bit of courage of his entire political career. It's hard to see that he's done this. I find it hard, and I'm sure all of you find it very difficult to see that he's actually made a wise decision on the bottle return scheme, and that he's shown spine in republishing Scotland's education statistics, because they are truly woeful. Anyway, announcing a delay of almost a year to the widely criticised bottle recycling scheme, and this is basically a delay long enough so that he can divest himself of the Greens, and try and part them away, and basically say to them, look, you're in power, you either enjoy the trappings of power and have your two members in the cabinet, or you can take umbrage and sod off, but we're not going to do the bottle return scheme. But he doesn't want to say that out loud, but that's what this is. So the bottle return scheme's gone, thank God. Anyway, Yousaf acknowledged that businesses had felt their concerns went unheard by the previous administration, where the scheme was led by the SNP's governing party partners, the Scottish Greens, and promised a reset of the relationship between business and government. Well, you need to do something, mate, because everything you've done has been against the people, has been against business, has been against common sense. But this is because you've allied yourself with the morons of the Green Party. Telling Scottish businesses directly that my door is always open to you, he said the 3 missions he was setting out to tackle poverty, to build a fair, green and growing economy, and to improve public services all depended on a thriving business sector in Scotland. Well, let's just have a look at those 3 things. Poverty got worse under the SNP. A fair, green and growing economy has got worse under the SNP. And improving public services, which have got worse under the SNP. So what he's saying is, for Scotland to thrive, the best thing to be is to have someone ruling Scotland who's not the SNP. And I think I agree with him. My God, that's 2 things right in one day. Anyway, blaming the UK government for creating uncertainty around the deposit return scheme. How is this the UK government? This was the Green Party who come up with this. This wasn't the UK government. Stop spinning bull. Anyway, by delaying the decision to exclude the scheme from the Internal Market Act, well, no, it's a purely Scottish act. If you wanted it, then it's only in Scotland. Scotland does not have the right to say what happens in the rest of Britain. And it wasn't even the SNP that brought this in. It was purely the Greens. So you've only got yourself to blame. Why bring in a law that only applies to Scotland and then try and foist it on Wales, England and Northern Ireland? They don't want it because they know it's madness. And they told you it's madness and you still pushed on with it. And now you've seen that it's madness and you're abandoning it. So well done. But it's nothing to do with the UK. Don't lie. What, he can't help lying? You see, you give him the benefit of the doubt. You say, look, he's done something clever. He's done something wise. He's shown a bit of spine. And then he lies. Because he can't help himself. Anyway, Yousaf announced that the launch of the scheme would now be delayed until the 1st of March, during which time measures will be introduced to simplify the process and support small businesses and hospitality. No, nothing will be done because it cannot be simplified and there is no support. It will be damaging to everybody. But the Scottish Labour leader, Anna Sawar, dismissed the statement as rehashed promises from the past that have never been delivered, which is true. He has got that right. But what Humza Yousaf can't escape from is that he is not now running a functional government. This is an MP that is mired in scandal, mired in division, talking to themselves and about themselves, he added. The Scottish Lib Dems leader Alex Cole-Hamilton said, Everyone, including the SNP backbenchers, otherwise engaged today, knows this First Minister's relaunch has been utterly torpedoed. And while he is focused on the turmoil within his own party, the NHS waiting time targets are still being missed. More ferries are breaking down and record amounts of sewage are being dumped into Scotland's rivers. We'll give him the praise because he's got it right over the bottle deposit scheme, and he's shown a little bit of spine over admitting that the education is so bad that they hid it from everyone, but they're prepared to put the numbers back into international records, and that's fine. But that's basically all he's got. Everything else is going wrong for him. And so, yeah, but I mean, we're all enjoying it. Come on, we're all enjoying it. But we will give him those two. We'll give him the two little wins. We're generous. We're not spiteful. We'll give him the two little wins today. In advance of the statement, Kate Forbes, who Yousaf narrowly beat to the leadership and who will probably be leader very, very soon if the SNP wants to continue, launched an analysis with the pro-independence think tank Commonweal that called for the Scottish Government to do more with the powers it has to create a well-being economy that will eradicate poverty. You cannot eradicate poverty. It is impossible. The reason being that poverty is mentioned that anyone earning or where a household income is below 60% of the national average. So if everyone gets rich, then the average wealth goes up, but there's still an average, and everyone below the 60% is in poverty. You can't do it. It is impossible to eradicate poverty because of the measure of poverty. You need to redefine what poverty is before you can ever hope to get rid of it. But with the definition of poverty we have now, it's impossible. It's actually physically impossible to eradicate poverty. Anyway, Yousaf himself promised to invest a further 1.3 billion in the Scottish child payment over the next 3 years. Who's paying for that? And said he would be even bolder on redistributive taxation. So he's going to charge more tax to the wealthier and the middle classes and the sort of upper working classes to give to the poorer, and that's fine in principle, but I think he lacks the understanding of what the rich and the middle classes will do with their money, and it will leave Scotland in a flash. Anyway, that's one of the problems he's got, is that he doesn't understand taxation. Anyway, getting back up, but it's another one of those things. That's one of the silly things I was talking about. He wants to increase taxation effectively, which will drive money out of the country, which will reduce the tax take and make it much harder for him to achieve any kind of policy achievement because he won't have the money to pay for it. Anyway, he doesn't know that because he doesn't know much. But well done. I salute him. For getting rid of the bottle deposit scheme. And I salute him for having the balls to admit that Scotland has got a terrible education programme. Anyway, we'll come up and round off. Now, having addressed these particular issues, perhaps he can put his mind to more important matters like the NHS, transport, the environment, jobs, the economy, social care, the young person's drug problem. All these things that need far more investment, far more work, far more attention than simply the little things like getting some money back on your bottle of pop or the Gender Recognition Act that also tends to be going nowhere. But no, you see, he wants to make the big statements about the things they're doing, but he's not prepared to actually do anything. So judge him not on what he says, judge him on his results. And let's see. I mean, he's talking about a 3-year policy, a 3-year plan, the great grand 3-year plan that he has got. Well, first of all, if he's still there in 3 months, let's look to see how much more the waiting list for the NHS is. Let's see how badly the schools are doing now that they're being put back onto league tables. Let's see how the unemployment is growing. Let's see how businesses are fleeing Scotland in the wake of his proposed tax rises. Because that's everything that's going to happen under this man. Because he hasn't got a clue. But he can talk big about the little things. But he can't talk at all about the big things that matter to people. Anyway, I shall stop now. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please do hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, share the video, and definitely leave a like. It really helps with the metrics. Until next time, stay safe, stay well. Make sure you get your 10p back on your bottles. and goodbye.